Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Heidi from My Reading Life. Long time no see. So I have been away from BookTube for a little while, and that's because I actually had a week-long vacation. I returned from that vacation on Monday and went right back to work on Tuesday, and it's just been flat out crazy since then, so I haven't had time to film. And of course, it's at that time of year where there is still sun in the evening after work, but it makes it difficult to find a place to film because it's still too cold outside to film. For me, I still have snow on the ground. So please excuse the glare on my glasses. We're just going to ignore it and we're just going to go with it. All right. So first things first, I would like to catch you up on where I am with reading from my TBR shelf. If you remember when I started on January 1st, I had 145 books on my TBR shelf. My end of the year goal is to reduce that to be under 100 books on my TBR shelf. And in order to do that, I should be on average reading about 4 books off my shelf a month. And that is after I, do the math of how many books I brought in, how many books I read or got rid of. So in March, I read 7 books off my shelf. 3 of them came in, 3 new books came in, and so that's a total of 4, -4 to deduct. And in March, I was able to deduct 3, and January 2, so I'm increasing every month, which is good. So we're currently at 138 books on the TBR shelf. So doing well there, not as good as I might have hoped, but I'm going to say it's a win at this point. Now, I had done a bunch of reading at the end of March that I hadn't had a chance to talk to you guys about, so I'm just going to briefly go through. I've got 5 books to talk to you about that I haven't wrapped up, basically, and I just want to quickly wrap them up. And the first one of those is Dreams from My Father. So, yeah, a little bit of white glare here. Dreams from My Father by Barack Obama. This is his memoir of growing up and growing up as in a biracial family. His mom was white and his dad was black from Kenya. They met in college, got married, had him. And this is all about Obama's life growing up because his dad leaves and goes back to Africa and his mom raises him basically as a single mom. But she's gone a lot too. And he ends up actually living with his grandparents in Hawaii a lot of the time. I mean, a lot of this story is known, but the depth and the detail that Obama goes into in this story is really great. I ended up listening to this on audio, and it's read by Barack Obama himself, so I would highly recommend that. This book is not as good as Michelle Obama's Becoming, I will tell you that, although it is highly interesting. But Barack Obama is much more... he gets in his own head a lot. He is he's a bit of a deep thinker. They didn't call him the professor president for nothing. And he could go off in the weeds a little bit in some of his philosophizing around different members of his family. So I did enjoy this. It's not as good as Michelle Obama's Becoming, but I'm glad that I read it. And then I finished up a book that I've talked about in regards to the BookTube Prize. I read A Place for Us by Fatima, Farheen, Mirza, and this book is a 5-star read for me. I gushed about it on the BookTube Prize video where I talked about my rankings, so if you want to hear my full thoughts on this book, please go over and check that video out. But all you need to know is this is a beautiful family story about a Muslim family in California, and it is a family story that could be a family of any culture, but this family just happens to be Muslim, which adds a depth to the story, an interesting cultural bit to the story that just enhanced the experience for me. It's just a lovely, lovely book, and it makes me very emotional to talk about it. I then finished a buddy read with Doris and Patrice, and that was of The Path Between the Seas by David McCullough, and that is the story of the building of the Panama Canal from 1870 to like whenever it opened, right at the start of the World War, so it was like 1914 or something like that. excellent piece of historical nonfiction. David McCullough really knows how to write a story. As Doris said, he has this uncanny ability to take a story that you actually know because it's already happened. It's historic, so it's happened and you know, and write it in such a way that chapters end on cliffhangers and you have to keep reading to find out what happens next in a historical, you know, event that you know what happened. So he's so good at that. He's so good at writing the stories of these actual people and then making them into these characters that you just have to read more about. You know, they become so super interesting, just like they were movie characters or action hero characters or whatever. Such a good writer. We really enjoyed reading that together as a buddy read and talking over each chapter between the three of us on Voxer. It was an excellent experience. And both Doris and Patrice then recommended to me that I read this book. This is Silver People, Voices from the Panama Canal by Margarita Engle. And this is a middle grade book. It is written in verse. Let's see if I can get, so you can see it. So you can see it here. It's written in verse. It's written, there's 2 or 3 or 4 human characters, and you get their perspective, and then you also get the perspective of the animals and the trees and other things in the rainforest. And this book is an excellent companion to The Path Between the Seas, because this book tells the story of the workers who the minority workers who built the canal, the laborers who dug the amazing amount of material out of the way for the canal to happen, and how they were treated, the non-white workers on the canal, and how they were treated, and the indigenous population, how they were treated. And this gives you a little bit more perspective on the impact to the environment and the jungle and the natural habitat because of this massive construction project. This is a beautiful book. Highly recommend it. I see Doris picked up another one of Engle's books about Cuba, and I am probably going to be picking that one up too because I really love this author's writing. And then the last one I want to talk about is a book that I picked up ostensibly for middle grade March, and this is Albert of Adelaide. And I just have to say to Doris and Jacqueline at 6 Minutes for Me that I had planned on reading this for also not only for middle grade March, but as for hashtag Aussie April, because it takes place in Australia. And so I thought it was an Australian book, but this author, Howard L. Anderson, is not Australian. He is American, as a matter of fact. So, and I'm not entirely sure that this book is really middle grade, because while the main character is a platypus who has left the zoo in Adelaide and has traveled north on the railroad to find a mythical land where the real Australia still exists. And all of the characters are animals. They're, wallabies and dingoes and all, indigenous animals to Australia, which led me to believe that it was middle grade. This book is very violent. There are many deaths, dismemberments. There's alcoholism. There's drug use. There's so much going on in this book. I mean, it's obviously a metaphor for how frontierism and how white people, took over from indigenous people. It's like a metaphor for all of that. Frontier expansion, I guess, is what I'm going to say. I'm not sure that it's for young people. It's really, I don't know. So if you've read this book, Albert of Adelaide, please tell me what you think about it. And please tell me whether you think it's really is a middle grade or a young adult book, or if I was mistaken in my assumption about this book. I'm just going to look here in the front cover and see what it says. Sometimes it will say the Library of Congress, how they catalog it. I don't see anywhere where it says. No, it doesn't say. what this is. So I don't know. Anyway, I read this whole thing on the plane ride to Florida in one sitting, and it was entertaining, but it was not what I expected. So there's that. So that's everything that I finished in March, and we've talked about where I'm at with my TBR, so that's great. I would say that, you know, I was trying to read in a bunch of different categories for all the different readathons and things that happened in March. So let's see if I can show you my bullet journal here. So up here, you know, I had middle grade March, and I read I Am Malala as a nonfiction. I read, I gotta turn this around, books with a non-human character. I read Albert of Adelaide, which maybe isn't even a middle grade book, but who knows. I read Wondersmith for the fantasy category, and for books written in verse, I read Silver People. And the fifth category for middle grade March was diverse reads, which Silver People and I Am Malala both definitely fit that bill. The one book that I didn't read yet was Inside Out and Back Again, which was a middle grade novel written in verse that I had planned to read, but it's still, you know, it's high on my priority list to read soon. And then, let's see, the next one is March Mystery Madness, you can see there. And I did read Dark in Death by J.D. Robb. And then, oh, another book I haven't, because I didn't finish I had started it, but didn't finish it in March, is Dissolution by C.J. Sanson. I did listen to that on audiobook, and that was excellent. But I will talk more about that later in my, my next recent reads video. For the Irish Readathon, I started reading Portrait of an Artist as a Young Man by James Joyce. I did not finish it. I'm going to try to finish it because it's on my classics list as well, and so it will allow me to cross it off, but boy, it's hard going. It's real hard going. It is a slog. So I haven't even finished the first chapter yet. So we shall see. It's still on my TBR for April. I'm going to try to continue it. I'm going to give myself the month of April and see if I can finish it and then reassess. I also participated in the Femme Fantail readathon, which was a one-week readathon, and for that I doubled up and read Wondersmith. My March of the Mammoths book was Grant by Ron Chernow, which you know I've been working on for months, and I am still working on it. I have like less than 100 pages to go, but I had to put it down because I couldn't take, you know, a 900-page book with me on vacation, and so I just didn't take it. So I got to work on that. And then that's pretty much it for everything that I had planned to read. There were 3 BookTube prize books that I had to read in March, which I obviously read, and you've heard about those in my other video. So very successful March. I hope that you all had a very successful reading month in March, and I'm looking forward to, I know we're already, you know, a week into April, but my reading has been going great guns so far in April, and I'm looking forward to continuing that for the rest of the month. I will talk to you all later.